Yo, what's good, guys? So we're back again with another video, another informative video. So this is a different topic as opposed to comparing the differences like power building versus bodybuilding. It's kind of different. We're outside, so it's a little bit loud.
As the UPS truck drives by.
As the UPS truck drives by, yeah. So I have my boy Brandon here, who I've known for a while now, but
it's been like, what, 2 years? 3 years?
Maybe a little longer than that.
1 to 1?
Yeah, 1 to 1 days. But it's a different topic because Brandon's style of training is very, very different. He lifts a lot and like heavy wise. And the previous video I brought on was Russell, and obviously Russell has a very different form of lifting than Brandon. Brandon is more focused on the bodybuilding aspect as opposed to my last video, which was with Russell, more focused on the powerlifting. So it's a different, totally different style of training. As you see by the title is time under tension. So time under tension, if you want to define that, talk about it. It's pretty much self-explanatory, but you want to elaborate on it?
It's just literally the time the muscle that you're working is under tension, the contraction basically of it.
Okay.
And every set, people sometimes lift to minutes. That's really old school. Sometimes people go for higher rep ranges. But really, if you do all the volume, that's really the tension that happens within the workout.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? So like, it's funny because a lot of people misunderstand it. You can do different rep ranges and get the same time under tension.
Right.
And you'll get the same progression.
Right. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. So with that being said, like, the way he defines it is that. The way I define it is a little bit different, but it has the same concept. So with time under tension, you see, we can talk about bicep curls. I feel like bicep curls is the most universal movement. So with bicep curls, a lot of people, when they curl, right, let's say standing, okay? So standing barbell curls is one of the easiest things to talk about. So with standing barbell curls, it's kind of like goes to say, who can curl the most? Like, it's always like an ego lift, right? And you see those people who are lifting maybe 100 pounds, 110 pounds, and their arms aren't that big. And there's a reason for that. You know, at the top of the movement for the bicep, when you're curling and you're swinging it up, it kind of rests here.
That's when time under tension stops.
That's when time under tension stops.
Especially, that's why you see people with underdeveloped arms, is because when they do curl it, they only get a little bit of that tension on the bicep, and they let their front delt take the rest of it. Exactly.
So the way we lift, the way I train back, you know, my strongest muscle group, in my opinion, is that I find a range. Every person's range of motion is completely different. Because obviously everyone's muscles are shorter or longer, whatever the case may be, but you have to find what works for you. You know, it's one of those things where the secondary muscle group, obviously for back training, is biceps, right? Learn to take away your biceps out of the movement.
And also, like, a big point is like today with how I lifted, a lot of people like me, I can contract my lats and still pull and it not look very nice.
Yes, exactly.
Some people, they can't do that, and they literally, to get the best contraction, they have to slow everything down. I'm kind of lucky enough, I learned how to contract my back really early. I literally get no bicep development from rowing or pulling.
Same thing,
exactly. That I have. That's why it's funny. That's why my back is overdeveloped and my arms aren't. Is because the same with pushing. My shoulders come in and it's my chest, but my tries like a little bit. So when you see someone, you know, you see some of these huge guys, and disregard everything, just training. Let's not talk about supplements. Let's talk about food, whatever. When you see them pulling super hard and horrible, you know, not horrible form, but kind of bad. You're like, how are they so developed? They just have a great mind-muscle connection. So it doesn't look like it, but they are getting time under tension the entire time.
So with that being said, Brandon just talks about mind-muscle connection. Mind-muscle connection has everything to do with time under tension.
Yep.
Time under tension, you can use tempo, right? Like one of the movements, we're doing a 1-2-1. So like a 1 second contraction, 1 second negative, and a 2 second hold, right? So it goes to show that even though I may perform the same exact exercise, the same exact range of motion, same exact rep ranges as the next person, I'm getting a better contraction. I'm feeling my back a little bit more because I'm not focused on just pulling the movement. I'm focused on actually contracting and stretching the muscle. And there's a difference. So before this, me and Brandon also talked about underdeveloped backs, right? Obviously, we talk about back training because back training is...
Talk about deadlifts.
Yeah, so back training, you know, anybody can have a big chest, anybody can have a big arm. because that's the show muscle, right? That's the muscle that you see. When someone walks in front of you, that's the first thing you see is their chest, their arms, whatever, right? Or their abs. You don't see their back. A lot of people kind of ignore the concentration of the training of the back.
It's hard to contract a muscle you don't see, just like hamstrings.
Exactly. So, you know, we talk about underdeveloped backs a lot.
It's the number one thing you see in bodybuilding.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we, you know, for competitors like Brandon and myself, we know that shows are won from the back, and that's the key example. So we talk about underdeveloped backs. What is your take on that?
Well, like I was telling you about deadlifts, right now we're in a very programming era, you know, and especially powerlifting, hybrid and stuff. And I see, and this is personal experience, obviously everybody's different, but everyone right now is really focusing on deadlifts. Let's deadlift first and then backward. Boom, boom, boom. I'm gonna hit it, and I'm gonna exhaust myself. I'm gonna go heavy, and then the rest of I'll take everything else as an accessory. And personally, I think that unless you have a pretty good mind-muscle connection and genetic predisposition, you're probably not going to have the best back you could. I was deadlifting. I got up to 600, 3 years ago? 3 years ago, and I had a good back. It was decent, but when I went to row and when I went to pull, everything, I was exhausted, and I would just be so tired before my workout even, you know, finished. And so I actually don't deadlift anymore. I probably haven't deadlifted on a back workout. Sometimes a rack pull at the end, though, now. For, a year and a half, and my back development is soared because I'm telling you right now, I don't care how much you pull. If you can deadlift 600 and I can deadlift 455, but I'm rowing 315 and you're rowing 185, I'm pulling, vertical pulling, you know, 200 and you're pulling 130, I'm going to have a superior back than you are. It is what it is, you know? So I just think that kind of, and I love deadlifts at the end of a workout because it can just destroy it. I mean, they're great for foundation and everything, but that's what I think the problem is right now.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things with the most common question, you're right, the most common question is, most people, like, I flex my back and I'll hit a back double bicep and I'll post it, and people will be like, how much do you deadlift, or do you deadlift? And I'll tell people no. The only deadlift I really do is stiff-legged deadlifts or Romanians. That's pretty much the only deadlift I do. Obviously, I train for aesthetics. I don't train for power. Exactly. Power is definitely one of those things that comes with it, with programming and consistency and growth. Absolutely. It comes naturally, of course, I'm talking about. And in both ways, even naturally and unnaturally, it still comes with it. But it's just one of those things where I kind of don't really care too much about, because at the end of the day, you know, on stage, it really doesn't matter how much you deadlift. It matters how big your muscles are.
Even someone like Russell, we worked out a long time ago, and I showed him some stuff on, you know, intra-workout stretching, this and that. And since he's incorporated more bodybuilding stuff versus just his deadlifts, his back has, it used to be a weak point, now it's becoming a strong point.
His back
That's
is
a perfect example of someone, exactly. You know.
So going back to the question before we get too off topic, is time under tension necessary?
Yeah, it's everything. In bodybuilding, it's literally everything. The best
muscle growth. We're talking about just muscle growth.
Muscle growth, exactly. Like also, like when you're lifting, right? Let's say you go super heavy, blah blah blah, in every movement, and you're super exhausted, and you're really exhausted your CNS. But in reality, if you're not getting the time under tension correctly, you're not exhausting the actual muscle you're working. So I can sit there and just go crazy, but if there's not enough time under tension for the muscle I'm supposed to be working that day, then I didn't do growth. You know, exactly.
So that goes also back to the term of slow twitch and fast twitch muscle fibers, which covers speed reps, right? So a lot of people incorporate speed reps. Like, if you see a lot of different programs, let's say Lane Norton's PHAT program, that is the #1 program out there that I think everyone knows about in terms of bodybuilding. And he has on there in one of the programs speed reps, right? So speed reps, people are misconceiving it, is that people are trying to get up the reps as fast as possible. That is a certain case. It varies upon case, right? Like just Brandon was talking about, this ties into everything. If you're speeding up your reps and you have explosive power, but you don't have growth, what is the point?
Exactly. That's
because you're just going through the motion over and over.
Lane Norton was he was the one who literally he said exactly what I said. You can have someone go if they're literally lifting the exact same amount of time, but one is slower and one is faster, they still have the same time under tension. And people don't understand that. That's the same exact thing.
Yeah, with bodybuilding, obviously I'm talking about bodybuilding guys and not powerlifting. To a certain extent, I think 80% of the case, weight is irrelevant. Because if you hear a lot of the old school people talk about, you can make, it doesn't matter how much weight you have on the bar. is what you make of it.
You can turn any weight into an extremely hard set.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But that's not saying if you sit there and curl 10s your whole life, you're not going to have big arms.
Yeah.
You still have progressive overload, and that. But when people
heavy is relative.
Exactly. There you go.
Relative.
And what people don't understand with progressive overload, it's not going. This is getting a little off topic again. It's not going. Let's say I go up to 100-pound dumbbells and I get them for one set, and that's a PR. That's not progressive overload. Progressive overload is increasing the volume with that. So I have to hit those hundreds for 2 sets, 3 sets, and 4 sets eventually, and that's how you grow.
Right.
Exactly. And again, though, time under tension. If you're just pushing the weight up, you're not doing anything.
Yeah. So, for our training, time under tension, we always think about it. We always think about time under tension. And, sometimes we have 8 reps, sometimes we have 10 reps. But we come to a point where we do the movements and we find the exact range to where that muscle does not rest. Now, you guys see the way I do lat pull downs, right? Lat pull downs, I am kind of leaning back and pulling all the way to my chin, just like how I do wide grip, whatever the case. And I go about 80-90% of the way up without overstretching, overextending my lats, letting my lats lose tension and pull that 10%, 15% with my biceps at the top of the movement. So that's where a lot of people get it wrong. That's where a lot of people have bigger biceps but no back. And it goes back to that case with everything, with bench press.
The first set of pull-ups we did,
Yeah.
a lot of people short ROM, but they don't understand the time under tension you're getting from those 5 reps versus the stretch.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
So with those, I'm gonna put in the clip right now too. Those pull-ups that we did, 5 reps, short range of motion, which is halfway from the middle to the top, that hits the lat, right? And that hits a little bit of the bicep, but to a certain extent, to where we come down all the way after the 5th rep and we pause for 3-second motion. That does not mean that you hyperextend your biceps. That means come to a complete stretch for your lats. I wasn't coming all the way down. I was coming down all the way to where my lats were stretching without overextending my biceps, if that makes sense. So I was keeping the constant tension. That's why it was very hard for me on the last set. I only filmed 1 set per exercise to kind of give you guys a gist of what we did today. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Like I said, or like I asked, is time under tension necessary? Absolutely. Yeah. Learn to control your weight. Don't let the weight control you. That's one of the biggest misconceptions in fitness. That's why I kind of have a problem with CrossFit. I feel like I'll get a lot of hate for this, but we're building muscle. We're building muscle. We're not fucking just yanking up the weight. We're going this for longevity.
Just think about when you work out, when you leave the gym, it's not about being, oh my gosh, drenched, you can't walk, your heart rate is through. No, whatever muscle you work that day should be pulsing. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
If you don't feel it, then you're not doing anything.
Absolutely. So yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed this little talk that we had, time under tension. I know a lot of people, amateurs and even intermediate lifters, have a lot of problems with this and ask a lot of different questions, or maybe even the same questions. So I hope we addressed kind of the issues talking about this. But yes, guys, time under tension is absolutely necessary. Control the weight. It just goes back to that. Slow twitch, fast twitch muscle fibers, hit both of them, but learn to use the actual muscle as opposed to secondary muscle. So that's the end of that. Give us a thumbs up if you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you on the next one.